4 years ago, I dated a guy for 2 years. We were really in love, best friends, all of that. We broke up after a nasty fight my sophomore year of college that was fueled from our frustrations of being long distance. His mother detested me because her husband had died a few years back and he was her only son, and I guess she thought I wasn't good enough. She always made this very clear, and one of the issues my ex and I had was him not noticing or defending me. A couple of years ago, my ex came to our hometown and all my old friends met up. We were mutually surprised to see each other, and it was very clearly an odd and tense situation. Everyone got drunk, ex started talking to me, then we were laughing, then we started making out and had sex in our friend's guest room. Super drunk, no condom. I barely remembered when I woke up and just dipped out of there. A month later I'm still pretty messed up because I still loved him and that encounter made it worse, and I realize I'm late on my period but hadn't noticed because I had been so distraught. Took a test, so surprised when it was positive I fainted. I knew we wouldn't work out as a couple, no matter how much I still loved him. I wanted the best for him. I wanted him to find a girl to be happy himself with and finish school and be successful. He was really going places and not have to move back home to be with his kid. I loved him so much I just wanted the best. Couldn't bring myself to get an abortion. So after 3 months when it really hit me that I probably wasn't going to lose it, I did what I thought was the best thing to do. I went to his mom. His mom was very wary opening the door. Faked a smile, all that. Tried to politely ask what I was doing there. I told her I was pregnant with her son's kid and that we wanted the same thing for him. I told her I wouldn't get an abortion, but ex didn't have to know. She was real quiet, asked why I was willing to do this. I said I couldn't tell him because I didn't want to get back in a relationship knowing he wasn't happy with his life, and I didn't want to fuck it up. So I told her I wanted to move away to Detroit, where some of my extended family was, and cut everyone except immediate family from back home off. That I wanted to basically drop off the grid, delete everything, disappear and raise my kid. So we made a deal. She would pay child support and rent. She is very wealthy and was very willing to keep this secret, and I would continue to go to school. I remember the last thing she told me was thank you for doing what's best for my son. I never knew you loved him this much. Really fucks to think about now. I went home and cried, then eventually broke the news to my parents and my plan. They were absolutely against it, so I promised to stay long enough for the birth, but I had to leave after. This was my life. I think part of the reason my dad allowed it was because I would be living off campus and they wouldn't have to pay rent, and it would be a lot less money for them. My mom only allowed because she visited her family in Detroit often and she always thought my ex didn't treat me right. That wasn't quite true, though. Flash forward and I have left school, I'm at home, social media accounts deleted, number changed. My mom keeps getting calls from my friends and tells them I have decided to start life over. The worst part was hearing some of my close friends cry. Even the guys and I couldn't ever answer the door because sometimes my friends would try to see me. My parents always said I wasn't at home, moved away. After the birth of my daughter I stayed for a month then moved to Detroit. Started working part-time, took classes online, raised my kid alone. Shit sucked but I made friends who didn't know me before and life was okay. That leads to yesterday. At around 3 p.m. I got a knock on my door and see 6 of my old friends including my ex. I was supposed to have company over so I had actual clothes on and the apartment clean, thank God. I tried shutting the door but boy one stopped it and they forced themselves in. Said girl one had been going to my parents' mailbox for weeks to try and find where I was mailing address. They found a letter I had sent my parents with pictures I had developed of my daughter but they didn't open it, just used the address and came. Thought I was part of a cult or sick or something. Boy 2 mentions a rumor that I had a kid. Standing there and seeing my old best friends and the shock and knowing I was fucked just killed me and I started tearing up. Cue my daughter waddling into view behind me. I wouldn't tell them who the father was, but my ex had the strangest look like he knew. They all sat down and I brought them beers and then played with my daughter. They all seem so young now, or maybe I feel old. My daughter went up to my ex at one point and held her hands up to be held. She hugged his neck tightly and wouldn't let go, then sat down facing him and fell asleep against his chest. My ex looked at me and I had to turn around. Thought I would lose it. Later we all caught up. Ex became exactly what he wanted, so maybe this was worth it. I explained I had wanted a new life for me and her, and I missed them all so much. It was late so I had ex carry her to her crib to sleep. While it was him and I in there he finally asked if she was his. I burst into tears and he knew. He was so angry, and I tried my best to explain but obviously it wasn't enough. I told him I thought it was best for him, and his mom agreed, and he started crying. I think from his yells the others knew too. They all slept over and are still here. My ex wants to work something out. I still love him but I won't get back with him just so he can see his daughter. I told him he can visit whenever he wants, but he wants me to move to his school's area. I don't know what to do. And I'm sorry. I thought I was making the right choice and it was selfless, but now I don't know. Any advice would help. Edit. My ex and I had a scare early in our relationship and he acted poorly. Kept asking me to abort it, etc. He was immature then and part of the reason we broke up was because it always felt like he wasn't growing up. I didn't stay in a relationship with him, get back into one with him after finding out because it would just be him angry at me all the time for something I didn't do and bitterness towards me for ruining his life. That being said, he seems really different now. I think he might still be in love with me, and I am still in love with him, especially after seeing him with my daughter. However, I won't get back into a relationship with him if our daughter is the only reason we are together, and I know he doesn't truly want to be with me for me. I know it's still fucked up, but I don't think he would have been able to become successful or grow up if he had known. Not saying what I did was right, just that was my reasoning. Thank you. Edit. Wow, thank you so much for the gold. I don't deserve it, but I appreciate it and all the support and advice and honesty, even if it was hard to read. Thank you, everyone. Update. Well, it's been about 2.5 weeks since I wrote this post. My ex and my friends all left the day after, but my ex went back to his mom's place and had a talk with her. He apologized to me for not being the most supportive before and was still upset with me, however understood because he has seen how much he has grown. He was livid with his mom, and if she didn't have a stake on where my daughter and I currently live, he said he would cut her off immediately. I am done with cutting people off, so I wouldn't have let that happen regardless. I got to go home last week and met up with a bunch of people. A lot of tears, didn't expect that, and my friends threw me a surprise coming home party. It was very overwhelming, but mostly because I never knew I was so loved. My daughter seems so happy with her father, and I'm in love with their relationship. My ex and I went out to dinner a few days ago, just us two, and although we didn't call it a date, it kind of felt like the ones we would go on as kids. That same connection is there. My goodness, it's crazy. Like I breathe differently with him or something. He's so much more mature now, it's insane, and I feel different too. It's all been so refreshing. He even walked me to my parents' door at the end of the night and kissed me on my forehead for a moment before going to his car, which is exactly what he did on our first date as teenagers. Sent my stomach into flutters and everything. I'm not saying we will end up together as a couple, but it feels like that's a possibility. Even if we don't, he has been a fantastic father so far and definitely will be kept in my daughter's life no matter what. We've met up with his mom and my parents and talked everything through. I finished out my fall semester at school, and now I'm going to be spending a few months in my ex's city and weekends at home while I apply to other places closer to him. This was agreed upon because I feel it's only right for me to move closer to him after depriving him of the beginning of our daughter's life. Me, my ex, my parents, and his mother are splitting financials until I finish school. Everything is kinda unstable and feels weird right now, but at the same time everything feels very right. Maybe it feels unsettled because I'm not used to being this content and happy. Like I'm afraid something will go wrong. I don't know. Maybe I did make a mistake back then, but I can't bring myself to regret anything, especially when my ex is so understanding, which tells me he knows he wouldn't have been a positive person in my daughter's life before. I don't know. I think everything will be okay. Money is fine. School is continuing. My kid and her father are spending so much time together. I get to see old friends again, and my ex and I are reconnecting. I can't ask for anything else, and I'm so grateful. God is so good. I never deserved any of this, but I'll take it gladly. Finally, thank you for all your comments. I promise I read them all, but it was very hard to respond in a decent amount of time with everything going on. The advice helped more than you all know, and all the comments were taken into consideration.